And I would like to underscore that for, again, for colleagues who are working with this population or thinking about working with this population, while again, it is intense, it is difficult work, it is very, very rewarding. And we have seen some incredible success stories like Alfred, where people have done very, very well and started new lives and just back with their families and doing very, very well.
Would you talk generically, I know you obviously cannot mention names, but generically about some of the successes you've had and how that felt for you as well as the person you were helping?
Well, I'd like to start by saying, as Alfred said, while it requires, his role requires a lot of patience, so does ours. It is baby steps, because sometimes folks have had experiences similar to what you talked about early on, where they were sort of met with a closed door over and over. So all of a sudden they're presented with someone, and here's this nice lady here. Do you want to trust her? And it's like, yeah, I've been down that road before. So you know, we've got to get past that. And again, they've got lots of housing issues and job employment issues and all those kinds of things that we're working on, along with trying to work on the mental health needs. But in terms of successes, yes, we have had folks who came back, felt very, very displaced in the community. This is one, not the world they left behind, because their perspective is so different when they return. They've also had this experience somewhere else, intense for a long period, that they now can't share with anyone. Nobody really understands or relates to them. So,
could you talk about that a little bit, maybe Alfred too, when you say that people don't relate to the experience? What is the reaction that you see when you come back and you've had this rather intense emotional experience? What do you find when you try and discuss it with people, maybe in your family, your friends, or whoever, who have not had that experience? What do you find?
It's still, all my family's dead. I'm pretty alone, you know. But people, got out of the army, they call me general, you know. They didn't call me baby killer, they say, hey, general, and stuff like that. It's just, you know, how many people you kill, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I still don't like people much. I like to isolate. But I'm working on it.
That's good, though. Kathey, could you talk a little bit more about that? A little bit of what Alfred was saying about the emotions and the reactions he experienced from people when he came home. What do you find people returning veterans experience with the general public as well as within their own families?
well, we tend to find a variety of reactions from people who don't want to hear it. That's too painful. That's too incomprehensible. And so they kind of shy away. And the veteran picks up on that. You're uncomfortable with what I'm saying, but this is part of what I live. And they can even go so far as to interpret that reaction as, I must be wrong or bad, or this is something to be shameful, and I can't talk about that. So it's difficult on that level. It's difficult from the perspective many veterans feel a lot of guilt. And so it's hard to talk about it, and if it's not received appropriately, that just intensifies or magnifies the guilt that they already have.
My father was a war hero, a whole bunch of medals, but he would never talk.
He would never talk about it. It's very different. So now suddenly here you are with something that has almost defined you for a period of time. It's part of who you are, and you have to shut down or deny that whole part of you in order to go back into this world. I've had several people say, both men and women, you know, they left, they were gone for a year, 18 months, now they're back, and they're expected to just pick up where they left off, go back to the job and do the laundry and pick up the pizza and all that stuff, and they've got all of this stuff going on, not feeling like there's a place to talk about it or deal with it, and they're looking at the world differently, and it's hard to do the day-to-day things, the day-to-day functions that they're being asked to do. And then they also feel like they should be able to do that. They did it before, they left, and now they're having a hard time doing it now. So again, I must be failing, I'm not dealing with this, something's wrong with me.
All right, Kathey, maybe you could talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that you face as you walk veterans through this process and what they experience, and maybe give us a case analysis. In other words, maybe with one patient who was particularly challenging, and walk us through that and what it was like to treat that person, and issues and the problems you faced in that process?
Wow, that's a big question. I would say that, well, first, I guess I'd like to say that Mike and his program has been a huge, huge resource for me. And I can't even begin to imagine doing the work that I've done without his assistance. I just can't imagine. He's been critical. Again, because they come in with so many needs from the basic level all the way through the hierarchy, we have to start very slowly and work on just getting them, as he said, into the clinic. Then for many of them, as I said, they've been displaced. They don't fit in anymore. So now I guess one of the big challenges is finding a new place for them to fit in. I would say that all of the veterans that I have worked with to date have left their previous job assignments. I know this is not true of all veterans who have returned. I'm simply speaking to my experience. But they have all, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, left their employment that they were previously in to go into new directions. As they found themselves, as we worked through developing coping strategies to help them deal with the aftermath and the trauma that they experienced, they found other interests and things that mended or healed them in the process that led them into new career choices or opportunities. So I would say that that's probably been one of the most challenging and at the same time very rewarding experiences, because again, to date, while they've all been challenging, I would say they've all been successful as well.
Well, one of the things that makes things difficult, as Alfred was saying, now you got somebody engaged and they're there and they're listening on stuff, and now you have the slowness going on with the VA. The VA has good people. They're doing the best they can. There's many backlog things. To get a medical, it's a year for benefits right now. If you're trying to get a increase in your disability rating, it's up to 2 years right now. So what happens is the frustration level that Alfred was talking about starts rising. So now you're engaged, now you're doing everything that everybody's telling you to do. You're doing the things that are supposedly going to move you forward, and it's hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. So a lot of times we lose some folks along that way. You know, we did lose Alfred for a little while because of that, and then Alfred came back again, because Alfred, once he left, I think he recognized where his resources were and where his comrades were, so he came back to us.
Comrades were talking to me.
So once you get them engaged and you get things moving, we have to keep things moving through the system so that they're going through, they're getting their jobs, they're getting their treatment, they're getting their benefits that they deserve, and can move on with their life, because it just seems to be a holding pattern many times, just holding. It makes it very difficult to keep engaged with some of our clients. So sometimes they're in, sometimes they're out, sometimes you don't hear from them for a couple months, and then all of a sudden they come back and things like that. So